Stop. Look at your hands. You hold tools, you scroll on screens, you trace the lines on a page and assume the story you were taught is true. Humans climbed out of the trees, built simple huts, slowly learned metal, and only recently invented engines, electricity, and computation. That version of the story is tidy. It fits in timelines and textbooks. But tidy doesn't mean completed. Beneath the soil, and in the dark corners of shipwrecks and rock formations, there are objects that refuse to fit the tidy narrative. They are the glitches. The things that make the official story squirm. Over the next 12 minutes, you're going to meet 10 artifacts that stare straight at mainstream history and ask, are you sure? They're not museum curios. They are puzzles cut from stone and iron that suggest someone, somewhere, knew more than we give them credit for. This is not armchair speculation. This is a tour of physical evidence that pokes holes in the timeline we took for granted. Keep your curiosity sharp. Let the doubt do some honest work. The London Hammer, the iron before man. Picture a quiet Texas afternoon in 1936. A family walks along and finds a strange rock with something wooden sticking out. They crack it open and pull free a hammer. Not a chip of metal or a loose head. An actual hammer embedded in stone. The hammerhead is almost pure iron, about 96%. Today, achieving that purity takes smelting knowledge and controlled furnace environments. The rock surrounding the hammer belongs to a Cretaceous formation. That places the surrounding material at roughly 140 million years old, around the age of dinosaurs. You can feel the friction between two facts, iron that pure and rock that old. Science calls it anomalous. Skeptics might say contamination, misplacement, or a prank. But consider the simplest image. A tool in a stone that formed before humans walked upright. If the context is correct, then whoever made that hammer had metallurgy far beyond what conventional timelines allow. It's a middle finger to the neat evolutionary arc we're used to. It asks a question that echoes. Who forged iron when reptiles ruled the land? The Williams Enigmalith, the prehistoric plug. Now imagine hiking in 1998 and finding a small granite rock with something weird protruding from it. 3 prongs like a modern electrical plug. The Williams Enigmalith looks almost comical at first glance, but the rock formed around it. There's no adhesive, no welding marks, just stone that crystallized with the object inside. Geologists who examine the formation date the stone at around 100,000 years old. That's well before human civilizations ever ran wires or dreamed of power grids. So what are we looking at? A prehistoric plug? A ceremonial object? Or evidence that someone knew how to move electricity long before you and I flicked a switch? Think about the implications without leaping to fantasy. If a component that resembles a plug is genuinely encased in ancient stone, then either our definitions of advanced ancient technology are wrong, or our assumptions about when people started harnessing electricity are incomplete. It forces history to pause and examine what it's been missing. The genetic disc, microscopes without glass. In Colombia, researchers found a black lyddite disc so hard it resists modern carving tools. On its surface, under magnification, are precise carvings. Human embryos at various stages, sperm cells, fertilized eggs. Microscopic images that only became visible to humanity after inventing microscopes and modern optics. Ask yourself how a people without microscopes could represent cells and embryos so accurately. Carving such tiny, accurate patterns into nearly unworkable stone requires knowledge of both the subject and a refined technique to render it. Maybe it was inspired by careful observation of external signs, pregnancy, birth, familial resemblance. Or maybe it was recorded by someone who saw the invisible. You can picture the scene. A craftsman working in near silence, chiseling minute shapes into black stone, guided by something more than empirical guesswork. The genetic disc is not just a curiosity. It's an artifact that implies either an ancient biological knowledge lost to the ages, or an older source of magnification and observation we've forgotten. The COSO artifact, a spark plug from the deep time. In 1961, 3 men hunting for geodes in California found a rock that destroyed their diamond saw. Inside, protected by stone, was what looked like a spark plug, a porcelain body, a copper sleeve, and a coil or spring components that in our modern world belong under a car hood. Fossils in the same strata suggest the enclosing matrix is hundreds of thousands of years old, on the order of 500,000 years. And yet, there's an object that matches a 20th century automotive component. The object later faded from the public eye, which added fuel to conspiracy whispers. But before you jump to conclusions, listen to the uncomfortable thought. If a spark plug-like device exists inside ancient geological layers, then either our dating is wrong, items move through strata unexpectedly, or ancient people, or beings, were using technology eerily similar to ours long before the Common Era. This artifact refuses to be explained away with easy stories. It nags at a simple idea. We may be living over the ruins of a far more advanced past. The Antikythera mechanism, the Greek PC. From anomalies in rock and private finds, we move to a wreck in the Mediterranean and a machine that feels almost modern. Divers pulled a corroded lump of bronze from a shipwreck near Antikythera, Greece. At first glance, it was a rusted mass. Under closer inspection, it revealed over 30 precision gear wheels. It could model the positions of the sun, moon, and planets. Scholars called it the Antikythera mechanism. What's striking here is less that the Greeks were clever, and more that they were precise engineers. The mechanism's craftsmanship implies knowledge of complex mathematics, the sort of differential gearing and astronomical modeling you might expect only after generations of mechanical refinement. It's an analog computer, a pocket-sized observatory that dates to roughly 150 BCE. This device bends the idea of ancient into something more nuanced. Civilizations we label primitive were, in pockets, strikingly sophisticated. The Antikythera mechanism proves that advanced thinking can arise in unexpected places, and reminds you that history often underestimates ingenuity. The matrix theory, a closing that waits. These artifacts are not isolated oddities. Each is a crack running through the narrative many of us accept without question. They collectively suggest three uncomfortable possibilities, and you're free to pick which feels likeliest. First, history is incomplete. Civilizations rise and fall, and knowledge can vanish with them. We might be stumbling through layers of forgotten technology, built by people we're only beginning to detect. Second, our methods of dating and interpretation have blind spots. Geological context is complex. Artifacts can move. Mistakes and assumptions can ossify into accepted truth. Maybe some finds are better explained by context than by rewriting the past, but some insist on asking for a better explanation. Third, time itself may be stranger than you imagine. What if technological leaps happen in bursts, then collapse, then reappear? What if civilizations are cyclical, and our timeline is a simplified map of a far more jagged terrain? You don't need to accept any single conclusion tonight. What matters is this. The presence of these objects makes certainty arrogant. The evidence asks for curiosity, not dismissal. A final thought. You live in a world built on layers. Cities stand over older cities. Roads hide the tracks of forgotten machines. Museums catalog the survivors. These artifacts, hammers in stone, plugs in granite, discs with microscopic carvings, spark plug analogs, and complex gear-driven computers, remind you how much can be lost, buried, or ignored. If you feel a chill of possibility, good. That's the exact reaction these items were meant to provoke. They nudge you toward humility about the past and an appetite for deeper digging. Leave a comment with the word GLICH if you think the official timeline needs a serious rethink. Ask questions. Challenge easy answers. Follow threads, not headlines. And if you want more, look into the Baltic Sea discoveries or the other artifacts that didn't make this list. The rabbit hole widens quickly. What we call impossible today could be yesterday's technology or tomorrow's rediscovery. Keep your hands steady and your eyes open. The archive of the impossible is heavier than it looks, and it may change how you hold your history.